10th at 7:30. Public officials with us in attendance, City Clerk Jennifer Stewart, Planning Consultant Mr. Mario Ortega with McKenna, and City Attorney Van Venerian. Chairman Wolfson, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
free and justice for all.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Novak, O'Rourke,
Present.
Osnick,
Here.
Palmer, Witt,
Here.
Wolfson,
Here.
Robertson.
Here.
Chairman Wolfson, we do have a quorum this evening.
Okay. Are there any requests for any agenda changes? Nope. Okay. Can I have a motion for the approval of the minutes of March 8th, 2022, please?
So moved.
Second. Support. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Okay. You want to do audience participation now for the, do we have anybody online or?
For audience members who would like to address the board, you have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address. If you are attending electronically, please press *9 to unmute or to raise your hand.
There are no electronic participants this time that wish to speak.
Mr. Wilson, it does not look like there are any audience members
Thank
looking
you.
to speak.
Do we have any communications?
No, sir.
Okay. I'd like then to open up the public hearing for C-361-22, the amendment to Chapter 51, Article 2, Section 51-2.02, definitions, as provided by this ordinance. Do we have any audience participation for the public hearing?
Again, for those that wish to speak during audience participation electronically, you need to press *9 on your keypad, telephone keypad, *9. And there are none.
It does not look like any audience members would like to speak during public hearing.
Okay. Do we have to read anything about the amendment?
No, it's what's required at the Planning Commission level is to hold the required public hearing, and you've done that.
Oh.
And then it was approved for first reading by City Council at last month's City Council meeting, and the Planning Commission can make any comments or recommendations that it may want to make, and then it would then go back to City Council. For second reading.
Okay.
And what the ordinance amendment does is it just amends some of the definitions in the definitional section of the zoning ordinance. In the course of reviewing some recent site plan applications, variance requests, so forth, it was determined that when the definitions are being applied to specific fact situations, that there were some gaps and inconsistencies there. And this ordinance amendment seeks to address those so that it is more specific when it's being applied in a fact-specific situation.
Okay, is there any indication on these as to which ones are changed?
Yes, it's been presented in a red line format.
Okay.
So the definitions that are proposed for amendment
Okay,
are listed there. The definition is in italics text, and then the language that's being proposed for deletion is in bold and strike through. The new language has been underlined. So that'll tell you, and then the language that appears in normal text is the existing text, which is proposed to remain unchanged.
Okay. Once we did the public hearing now, it's going to go back to city council. Will it be coming back here again one more time, or?
No, this would be the only time it comes before the planning
Okay,
commission.
because this is the first I've seen what the changes were. And I don't know how we could comment without reading everything tonight.
Well, if you have any specific questions or comments on any particular definition, I'd
Don't
be
know.
more than
Haven't
happy
had
to
a chance.
address those.
Never got a review of it. Never got a chance to review it, to look at it. This is the first I've seen it.
Oh, well, I believe it was made a part of the packet, part of tonight's packet.
Never got a packet.
Well, I can't speak to that, I
Yeah.
guess. It was in my packet, but apparently it wasn't in yours.
Well, the first time we had was at the city council meeting.
What's that?
It's at city council meeting, first reading.
Right, that was the first time it was,
That was a
that's the
month
first
ago.
time during the first reading at last month's city council meeting, it was part of the city council packet. And then, like I said, they approved the first reading, referred it to planning commission for the required public hearing, and then for any type of comment or recommendation that the planning commission wants to make about the ordinance amendment, it can do that, and that would be taken back to city council, and, city council would then proceed with the second reading.
And then after the second reading, does it come back here again?
No, it doesn't. It just comes once.
After the
After
only
that-
role here is to provide a forum for public hearing.
That's the main purpose of bringing it before the planning commission is
We
for,
can speak to it as members of the board, as a commissioner. You can speak to that, but the city council has the final say.
oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah, the planning commission doesn't have any, the extent of the planning commission's role is to hold the required public hearing, which you've done, and then you can comment and make any recommendations that you want, and those would be communicated back to city council, and they would take any comments or recommendations by the planning commission, they would take those into consideration when they do their second reading. But they're not bound in any way by
By what we do, right.
by any of your recommendations, but they would certainly consider them.
So we could conceivably, if we vote to do that, vote that we do not make any recommendation at this point because we don't, how do I word it? The fact that we weren't able to review the changes, to have any real intelligent comment on this. Would a motion be to say we don't recommend any of this until we've had a chance to review it? And it doesn't mean it's going to hold water.
Well, that would be the prerogative of the planning commission as far as any motion that you wanted to make in terms of
And it's a
any
question of-
review or recommendation that you wanted to be communicated back to city council.
Does any commissioners have any comment on this?
Well, I did actually stop by yesterday and pick up my packet, so I have kind of leafed through it. I didn't have any big problems with what I saw. Personally, I would recommend it the council for the second reading, but that's my opinion.
This document has been a public record for over a month, based on the original draft. So it's not like it wasn't available. Our role here today is to give the public an opportunity to speak. If you didn't see it, I guess that's an opportunity to speak on that. You still have an opportunity to go to a council meeting and say, don't pass it for this reason, or amend it one more time. I mean, they still have that option. But I'm going to recommend it go to council too. I don't know that, that we should sit here and say it wasn't available, because it was. It's been available, I think, city attorney drafted that over a month ago.
Yes, it was part of the council packet for the April 19th meeting.
I reviewed this document online when it was published on Friday. And so I had over the weekend to review this change, or these changes, and I see absolutely no problem with these changes at all. These are more or less just the clarification changes that I see. So there's no big issue with this. There's nothing earth-shaking in this document.
Yeah, it's intended to simply provide some additional clarification of the existing definitions. There are no new requirements that are being added in terms of zoning regulations, and there are no existing zoning regulations that are being taken away. It's, for lack of a better word, it's illegal wordsmithing is really what it is. I mean.
Excuse me, Commissioner O'Rourke has his hand raised. Commissioner O'Rourke?
Hey, thank you. Right now, I'm in agreement with Chairperson Wolfson in that this did come over to me yesterday morning via email at like 9:40 a.m. And today was the first chance I really had a chance to sit down and look at it. So I do understand that it was publicly available previously, but just sitting on the commission, I usually wait for the packet to come to me to review the content. And there's a lot more red line in here than I would have anticipated, and there's a lot in here specific around the lakefront. And I think that that's important to, at least for me, to have a thorough understanding of before I vote or add comment in either direction. So I would like to have additional time to look this over. And thanks for calling on me.
So I guess the only authority we have then is just our comments on this, and we don't have to say anything. Is that correct?
Yes, that's an option.
If we vote to, well, we can't, let's say, what's the right word? Vote to say we want more time to review this and put it over to the next planning commission to give time to review it.
It would still
go
go
to
back to
council.
city council for second reading next week. However, if there was a motion by the planning commission to have more time to look at it before council takes any final action on it, then that would be communicated back to council. Then it'd be up to council to decide whether or not
Decide.
they wanted to postpone the second reading until next month and give planning commission another opportunity to
Okay.
look at it. And
Okay, I would entertain to have a motion
I
to
would
that effect.
still make a motion to send it on to city council for second reading. If we look it over before the council meeting, which gives us roughly a week, and we find something we don't like, we have the right, like anybody else from the audience, to make a comment or whatever. So I would vote we just send it on to them.
Is it a
So
motion?
that's my motion, excuse me.
I would second that motion,
Okay,
basically because we do have the option within the week to thoroughly go over this document. If you find any issue with it, you can relay that to staff, and they can forward that information to council.
And Chairman, discussion? Let's have,
discussion?
yeah, I would support a different motion to make a motion that, I'm not amending anything, but I would support a motion to request that the council lay it over at their next meeting. You go to them, but lay it over until the planning commission members have an opportunity to give direct input to council, if that satisfies people's need to read it. But it should be pointed out, this has been a matter of public record for a month or so. So it's not like it wasn't out there. Maybe somebody didn't get a packet. I do not know that. I have access that other people don't, but it was drafted by the city attorney in the packet at least a month ago. It may be longer. I'm not sure when it was actually drafted.
But if you haven't seen it, you haven't seen it. So I would support, perhaps I would request that we amend the motion to include that, the request to lay it over another month to give city council a chance to hear from the planning commission members, not to come back here because I don't think we have that authority. So it kind of picks up everybody's concerns. You got an extra, and if the city council wants to pass it, they're going to pass it anyway, but I think they might listen. They would listen to that motion. I'm not sure that, that they would pass it if a majority wants to give them more time, take more time. I think they would lay it over.
So,
Well, you got one sitting here, I mean, John, you,
I would support that amendment.
okay, well then, I'll call it a motion, so did you get that, Ms. Jakeway?
Yes.
That is to send it to council as the original motion and with the request that they lay it over to next meeting to give an extra month. I don't think there's any hurry. Is there a hurry here? Is there,
No, I don't see a problem with an additional
if it's
month.
just cleanup, then there is no hurry, and if it's wordsmithing, there is no hurry. So I think we can meet chairman's concerns and any other members' concerns, and it gives the public another month to come and address the city council. You know, they always can stand up under public comments and talk about, what's on the agenda, so.
okay.
I don't know if I got a second to the amendment.
So,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
seconded that.
Then you got to call a vote on the amendment, call them on the amendment.
Excuse me,
and the-
there's another, Commissioner O'Rourke has his hand raised again.
hey, thank you. I don't want to be, pardon me, jumping in while the conversation is going, so I'm just going to raise my hand with questions. So, Mr. Witt, if I'm hearing you correctly, there would be no action taken by city council this week.
Not
We
necessarily.
would have the opportunity to review this, and then the city council would make a decision on it next month. Is that correct? Or is there still a likelihood or a probability that city council could go ahead and take action on it tomorrow?
I can't hear very well. The city council can pass it if it's going to go back to them anyway.
But that's
We
not-
don't-
Tomorrow, right? They can pass it tomorrow?
No, no,
next
next week,
Or next week, excuse me?
the city council meeting, next week.
So even if we postpone it, if city council goes ahead and takes action on this and approves it, then we've delayed it for no reason at all, correct? Or is city council going to wait until planning commission has had a chance to review it and then make a decision next month? I'm just trying to define how this motion is presented.
Well, that would be that would be city council's call.
Right, so they can pass it then next week.
Yeah. Either way.
At which
it would
point
still
we
be
wouldn't
up to-
review it.
I understand. Either way, it'd be up to the city council to either accept that, vote on it next week to put
Yes,
it
okay.
into law, or put it over till the following month
Right,
for us to review it. But I think we can probably review it before the city council meeting, and then if we have any issues, bring it up at the city council meeting, or is that what I think your motion is like?
My motion was to ask the city council to lay it over
To lay it
another
over,
month.
right.
Another month. That was my motion to amend.
Right.
So that you actually have an extra month, because that's the discussion about, we're not in a hurry, it's wordsmithing, it really is not a requirement, we're not in jeopardy. So laying it over another month, but I don't believe we have the authority to say, no, you can't pass it. I mean, it's the city
Right.
council's decision.
I agree.
And it's been
All right,
out
I
there
get it,
in
I
the
get it.
public for, city council members have had it for over a month. And they sent it over here to meet the legal requirements for a public hearing. That's the
I
nature
mean,
of it.
I don't know for sure that it's going to be on the agenda next week. It might. It doesn't have to be.
If we get the motion over with, and you might find out we can deal with that,
Okay.
You need a motion, you need to call
Call
the question on the amendment.
The amendment,
Yeah.
okay?
Novak, O'Rourke,
no,
Osnick,
Yes.
Palmer, Witt,
Yes.
Wolfson,
Yes.
Robertson.
Did Mr. Work understand the no means,
I understand.
okay, just wanted to make sure.
Motion passes
Okay.
for the amendment.
Now I'll go to the original
Main motion.
motion.
Novak, O'Rourke,
No,
Osnick,
Yes.
Palmer, Witt,
Yes.
Wolfson,
Yes,
Robertson.
Yes.
Thank you. Main motion passes.
I think that satisfies the issue of timing.
that's all.
I think that will satisfy
yeah.
it. You'll
I mean, I
you'll
don't
find
know
that
why
you'll have another
it
month.
Went to
You'll have another month.
my spam motor thing. I usually look through those just in case.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay. Do we have any, we have new business. Finding out, okay. We got to, okay. Mr. Ortega, you want to present the new business, the PC 295 zoning site plan, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. We're here tonight to consider a site plan application for the establishment of a marijuana grow facility. This facility would be located at 900 Ladd Road, so that's the east side of Ladd Road, north of Walled Lake Trail. And the site is zoned I-1 Limited Industrial District. The site's .75 acres in area. It currently has a 5,040 square foot single-story building, along with associated parking lot. And as mentioned, the applicant is proposing to establish, to reoccupy the existing structure for a marijuana grow facility. First thing I'd just like to point out is there are some inconsistencies in the documents with regards to the application, what was cited as the proposed use versus the submittal documents, and then identifying, number one, the type of license they would require. For example, the application references a medical recreational / recreational Class C grower, while the business plan references a 1 Class C adult use license. So we would just request that the applicant revise the documents to be consistent and to clarify specifically which type of marijuana license they'd be applying for, either adult use or medical. But based on the additional information, we've gone with the presumption that this would be a Class C adult use marijuana grow. With regards to our ordinances, they allow for a maximum of 3 growers allowed in the I-1 district. At the time of application, there is 1 approved marijuana grow license in the city's I-1 district, so therefore this would be the second and therefore a permitted use. So then going through the rest of the marijuana ordinance requirements for the applicant, they are largely in compliance with the majority of the ordinance requirements in regards of, for example, wastewater and location and the other requirements we've listed. However, I just want to point out, once again, the documents need to remove their inconsistencies. For example, the floor plan must be revised to note whether the facility will be operated by 1 or 2 operators. It's currently configured to set up as 2 operators. And in theory, that could be fine. They would just have the right number of licenses, but we need to clarify what is actually going to be located within the building. And for example, a note must be added that no activities related to the growing of marijuana will be conducted outside of the building. One other issue specific to the marijuana itself is that our ordinance does require that their security plan be reviewed and approved by our chief of police. Now, while the state of Michigan has a very extensive and thorough security requirement, our ordinance does require this as well. That's mainly to make sure that the chief is aware of the facility, it's up to their standards, and they can be conscious and aware of all the security located within the building. So beyond the standard marijuana ordinance requirements, we look at regular ordinance requirements for our site plan. One of the first issues is just that right now, the legal description of the property extends to Ladd Road centerline and includes the existing road right-of-way. So the applicant should submit a lot split application to split off the road right-of-way from the private property and dedicate it to the city. This is just a holdover that we find happens from time to time. from back when legal descriptions didn't reflect that we are located now in a city. And we've been doing this across the city to make sure that the city has its rights for all right-of-ways, which the city has the responsibility to maintain. And then finally, then, there are just two other main issues. Because the site plan, and excuse me, the existing structure is in compliance with the majority of our dimensional requirements. When you look at the building design, it's a standard industrial/office type building. It does have a brick facade, so it is relatively slightly more attractive than you would normally find in an industrial building. In regards to parking, based on the ones that are provided, they exceed our minimum requirement. They do provide a dumpster enclosure. So the main other issues for you to consider would be the fact that a landscape plan has not been provided. The site does have the site plan shows 2 existing trees. There are a few more extra trees in the front yard. However, they are existing. And it would be up to the planning commission if you'd like them to submit a landscape plan to make sure they're in full compliance with all their ordinance standards, or forego that requirement, because the ordinance does give you that authority. However, the last issue is that there are no lighting details been provided in this application. So we do recommend that a detailed lighting photometric plan be submitted that includes the height from grade, fixture type, and light levels for the site, and a note that all fixtures must be shielded, directed downward, and mounted on a fixed bracket to ensure that the fixtures cannot be angled after installation. So in summary, the application is generally in substantial compliance with our marijuana ordinance. However, there are just a few issues that are outstanding. So therefore, we would recommend the Planning Commission grant site plan approval, conditioned upon, 1, that the applicant specify the type of license proposed. 2, they remove all inconsistencies in the site plan. 3, that the security plan is reviewed and approved by a police chief. 4, dedication of the road right-of-way to the city. 5, submittal of a lighting plan. And then, if Planning Commission chooses, 6, submittal of a landscape plan. I can take any questions you have at the appropriate time.
Okay. Commissioners have any questions for Mr. Ortega at this point?
I'm just a little confused. I see there's 2 grow rooms and there's 2 veggie rooms. What are they?
I believe with regards to the actual growing and processing of marijuana, it involves transferring the plants from a grow operation into where they're processed for distribution to a processor or a retailer. And yeah, that's one of the inconsistencies. They show 2 separate rooms.
Of each, right.
Of each, and so I wasn't sure does that mean there's 2 different distinct operators, or if they're just, that's how they're choosing to, operate their.
Well, I mean, it could be that they're set up to grow at different dates.
Exactly.
And mature differently. I just wondered what a veggie room was.
Oh, I'm afraid I'm not that versed.
Throwing tomatoes or something in there, and that's not happening.
I'm not as versed in how to grow marijuana. You might ask the applicant that question.
Yes, Commissioner O'Rourke has his hand raised, and the applicant has their hand raised. Who would you like to call on first, Commissioner O'Rourke or the applicant?
Oh, the applicant.
Applicant.
Let's hear from the
Maybe he could
applicant.
probably
Applicant?
Hear from the
He can answer the veggie question.
Okay.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Joey Kedgeber here, speaking on behalf of Sun Farms. I'm the attorney for the company. To answer the question about the 2 different bedrooms and the 2 different grow rooms, first, there will only be 1 operator in this facility. There's only going to be 1 state licensed operator in this facility. The reason that there's different grow rooms is exactly what somebody touched on. There's different phases of the growth process, and sometimes they start in the bedroom where they're just small baby plants, and where there's different lighting and different characteristics of that room and grow methods in that room. They'll eventually graduate to a bigger plant with different lighting in the other rooms, where they'll be able to flower and grow into bigger plants. The reason that there's 2 of each is because there's different strains and different sensitivities to different types of marijuana plants. As there's quite a few different types that will go into this facility, different strains, different things that they'll offer as a grower vendor to the provisioning centers or to the retailers in the state. So they segregate them because they grow differently, and they react just like any other plant to different lighting, different watering, different treatments. So we segregate those two different types of plants, and that's the reason for the two different grow rooms and the two different veggie rooms. To address some of the other points that were made during the conversation, yes, this will only be a Class C adult use facility. There's not going to be medical. That might have just carried over from a prior application and been left in there maybe for a dual application or whatever the case. But in any event, it will only be one Class C adult use license that we're seeking to achieve. Operators, I already touched on, we're only going to have one inside this facility. The security plan, we have no objection to, the chief of police, and we have no concerns that he'll approve. Our security plan is state-of-the-art in terms of the cameras and in terms of state compliance with all of the requirements that the CRA requires. The lot split item, I'm glad you clarified what that meant. I thought that that's what it would be, but obviously we have no issues with getting the property parceled off and doing a lot split so that we can clarify the legal description. The landscaping, we will defer to the Planning Commission. If there's anything that you require specifically would like to see incorporated, we'd like to be in line with whatever else is in that area and whatever current requirements or standards that the Planning Commission has for landscaping. And on the final item, we will submit a lighting and photometric plan. Our lighting already that we planned and intended to incorporate would be that downward pointing light that wouldn't interfere or cause any kind of nuisance to any of the surrounding environment or the street. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to field them, but ultimately with this building, we think this is probably one of the best uses for it. It's been relatively vacant for a while. I'm going to, clean it up and get it to a point where it's operational and it's actually an asset to the industrial park.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner O'Rourke, did you have a question?
I just wanted to see if Mr. Ortega would elaborate a little more on the letter that was provided by the fire marshal and how's that going to be addressed.
Forgive me, take me a second just to go over those issues again. I would say that these are all pretty much standard issues that we either address for any type of site plan. For the applicant, he probably has a copy of this, but, they do have to comply with the correct fire code, so that that fire code that the city is under is the 2018 International Fire Code, so that just should be noted on the, within their site plan revised. The site plan should be revised to reflect the 2018 fire code. Also complying with all regulations of LARA. That is definitely something that our review process does require. The city administration has an extensive process post-site plan review that works with the state to make sure that the licensing, the remainder of the licensing process is carried out and before they are issued a certificate of occupancy. So that would be a normal process undertaken by the city. The revision of the MSD sheets, those are something I'm sure the applicant is familiar with, and it is extensive with regards to the type of chemicals and nutrients they utilize. So I would recommend that be a condition of approval. And then it does require, the last item the fire chief pointed out was required an inspection from both the fire marshal and building official. And that, once again, is something that is normally undertaken for all applicants in the city. So if the planning commission wanted to have an additional condition that states approval with any outstanding items from the fire marshal, the fire department, I think that might be appropriate as well, rather than list them separately.
Thank you. I think there was a considerable number of items that are lacking. Basically, that we need some more additional information. Would it be appropriate to table it till he makes these revisions and comes back with the proper items, and then take a look at it to approve it or not?
So, if I may, a lot of the items that are in here, none of them are material to the actual operation or anything. A lot of them are just clerical errors in some portions where it's relating to medical versus recreational. And then in terms of the lighting, I guess the lighting plan would be the only thing that we really need to produce that hasn't been produced at all. And that lighting plan is relatively straightforward. There's not going to be anything in that lighting plan that would be material, I guess, to the approval or disapproval. It would be compliant with whatever the local requirements are and in line with the industrial park standards. If there's anything in particular I could address tonight, in terms of the items that are in the letter from the fire chief or the fire marshal, all of those items are not an issue. We don't use any hazardous materials. Where it says that it's MSDS sheets, yes, we do use nutrients, but we're not allowed to use insecticides, pesticides. There's a very strict list of what the CRA will allow us to use in these cannabis operations. There are no flammable materials used here, and we also are required to do a BFS inspection with the Bureau of Fire Safety at the state level before we're allowed to get licensed. So we will be, when we submit for building permit plans, there will be a full scale of all of the equipment and standards that are going to be implemented in this facility. And for us, I can appreciate you wanting a little more detail. I certainly understand the need and want for that. In this case, we are kind of up against a tight timeline with this property and closing and things like that. And that would be another reason that I would just respectfully request that we don't table it. If for what that's worth, I understand the Planning Commission has a decision to make, but that would just be one request we make, please.
Any commissioners have any additional input on
I
that?
wonder if it couldn't be approved with the conditions that Mario set forth and leave it up to the administration to make sure that it happens.
I'll second that motion.
Okay,
I have no problem with that motion. I could see approval of that motion.
okay. Can,
Could you reread that motion, just to
Yeah.
ensure I understand?
So it would be a motion to approve PC case 295 for site plan approval contingent upon meeting the criteria from consultant city planner dated May 4th and fire marshal letter dated May 5th.
Okay, thanks.
so it's basically it's left up administrative to enforce the,
And, Chairman Wilson, if I may, I would say that the majority of the items are a type of just making sure that they check off the other boxes that normally happen after site plan, but there are issues, the ones that would be outstanding would be the lighting plan. Actually, I would ask that you indicate, the Planning Commission give prior direction on the landscape plan, if you'd want them to submit one or not. And then, really, it's just removing the inconsistencies. That's the only thing that I could see, like if you'd want to see that prior to their approval. But I would imagine, but the applicant has indicated that they are definitely going to be, well, they are intending to be an adult use Class C marijuana. So I think that pretty much removes all the inconsistencies. So really, it's the lighting issues and the landscape issues. Lighting, our ordinance is pretty specific, and I actually take those to heart because I want to make sure the lighting conditions do not negatively impact any adjacent property owner. And then the last question for you would be your landscaping, if you want a landscape plan or not.
I thought those are going to be included in the motion.
They are. They're all in the motion.
Right.
But within the motion is if the Planning Commission requests a landscape plan be created.
who enforces, the reason why I'm asking this is there are some of the other applicants and some things we did it by administrative approval or whatnot, and a lot of the things didn't get done for quite a while. And I'm just wondering if that would be a case here.
Well, all I can say to that is that whenever the applicants, whenever you issue a conditional approval, we, the administration, we do our hardest to try and make sure these people come into compliance as fast as possible. However, I do know that currently there are some sites out there that are suffering from that issue, and we've been diligent in trying to get them to come into compliance, short of issuing a red tag and just shutting them down and kicking them off their property, because we're trying to work with them.
Okay, they're nowhere near like a school or another.
No, because the marijuana ordinance does state they must be a within at least 1,500 feet away, and they are definitely farther away than that.
They meet all these other requirements.
Yep, they do meet all the other marijuana ordinance requirements, yes.
Okay.
So we don't need to confirm that no school classes are provided in the community center that qualify the building as a school. I know we've had that question come up multiple times in relation to that specific building. Have we
Yes.
ever confirmed that?
Yeah, it's a good question, Mr. Orkin. Yeah, it has been confirmed recently. So it's my error that include that in that letter, because you're right, that was an issue that occurred when we reviewed 850 Lad Building A. But
Right.
since that time, we've determined there are no classes being held in the
Okay.
school. That building is strictly for administration for the school district only.
Okay.
Right, that's true. Okay, so we have in there about the landscaping plan and the,
So the thing is, are we comfortable with administrative review on the landscape? I am, but
We have in the past.
yes, we have.
okay. Can we call for a vote, please?
Sure. So just to reiterate, so the motion will be to approve PC Case 295 for site plan approval contingent upon meeting the criteria from consultant planner dated May 4th, 2022, and fire marshal letter dated May 5th, 2022, with administrative review of the lighting plan and the landscaping plan.
Sound right?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take a roll. Novak, O'Rourke,
Yes.
Osnick,
Yes.
Palmer, Witt,
Yes.
Wolfson,
Yes,
Robertson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
okay. We got, any commissioner comments?
I'm good.
Anything? No?
I'm good.
You're good? We're all good? Dennis, anything?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Okay. All right, how about a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
good, thank you.